Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about, a topic that people don't like to hear in the fitness world, and it's because the supplement industry has become so ubiquitous. And what people don't get is you can't even blame the people who are in supplement companies anymore for this, because it's the way the laws have been written, it's the way that the industry has been set up. It is set up in such a way to where they can't get involved in the industry and still be really honest with you and really make products that have your best interest in mind. And it's because of the way that it has been done due to circumstances beyond the current industry's control. And it's because way back in the early 90s in the US, the industry itself lobbied and discussed with Congress and got stuff put into place to where the supplement industry itself gets some exceptions as far as the Food and Drug Administration is concerned. And the problem is that this influences the entire industry around the world because everyone is going to replicate what happens in the U.S. The U.S. makes most of the big supplement names, the big supplement companies, and then they export them. And, everyone abroad is then competing with them. Okay, so this has created a whole situation to where, in short, everyone has to replicate the American model for the most part. And the first thing to remember is that, number one, supplement industry is not required to prove that their products are safe. Now, before we get over to prove their products work, it's in their best interest to make products that don't work. And I'll get to that second. But number one, there is no burden of safety required upon them. Okay? And we need to be clear there. The food that you buy at the grocery store, and that includes the junk food that you eat, that everyone's like, oh yeah, I wouldn't eat this. I don't know, don't eat all this refined sugar, all this refined vegetable oil, all this butter, whatever, right? It has undergone more safety testing than your supplements have. Okay, there's a certain degree of safety testing that is required, and that stuff still gets through. All right? Let that sink in for a moment. Dietary supplements are not required to prove that they're generally safe. The burden of proof that has been placed upon them, with an exception, is that they can't sell you a product that they know is harmful. Right? Before a drug is kicked out, and oftentimes supplements are advertised to produce similar effects to drugs. They help you lose fat, that's a drug. They help you gain muscle, that's a drug. Okay, let's be very clear there. That is claiming drug-like effects. All right, drugs are required as a general rule to go through a certain degree of safety testing before they're legal to give to humans per the FDA. Now, people say, but a lot of dangerous stuff gets through. That's correct, right? But there's at least some requirements for safety testing and to know what the risks are. The supplements that you are buying are not required to do this. So people will then say, oh, well, big businesses, the big pharma will try to push products through. Okay, fine. You don't think the supplement industry does the same thing? You don't think a different industry is willing to put profits above your health, ever? All right? They're not required to go through safety testing. In fact, the only time it is illegal for the supplement industry to sell you a product is if there is already evidence that what they are selling you is dangerous. In other words, they can't take a known, proven, dangerous substance and sell it to you. Okay, if there's studies already showing that something is dangerous, or if it gets studied after they've started selling it, they don't have to pull it till there's evidence that it's dangerous. And they're not really held that accountable for it. You're going to have a lot more trouble suing them than you think, because there's no requirement of safety. They just can't sell you something that they knew was dangerous. They can't say, oh, and they swept it under the rug. As long as they don't know, there's no real evidence, they can't find studies, so they can't just throw arsenic or whatever in your supplements. They don't have to prove it's safe. So you have no evidence to the safety. There's less safety controls in place for dietary supplements than there is for the McDonald's that you're buying. Okay? Number one, you're going purely off their good intentions. You hope that they have your best interest in mind. That's it. Number two, they can't sell you things that actually work, at least in terms of drug-like effect. That means a documented anabolic effect in muscle tissue, for example. Okay, that would then be a controlled substance. A documented effect in the ability to burn body fat and to take body fat off of you. Okay, those fall into the category of drug-like effects, right? Those are become drugs at that point. So people say, well, what's the difference between a supplement and a drug? Legal classification. Okay? Once something is confirmed to have certain properties to a certain extent in the body, it starts falling into the area of, hey, this is something that the FDA now has control of. And if it becomes something the FDA now has control of, then it's no longer just something they can sell you over the counter without safety testing. Because if something is shown to have that strong of an effect, we're now over into the category of, hey, this could probably have some very serious, more negative effects in the body. It's also now competing with prescription level substances. Okay, so we now have to understand how well it works. We have to understand the side effects and the risks now, because it is now compared in its competition for the pharmaceutical industry. And at that point, guess what? The FDA gets involved. This is where supplements get outlawed. And this happens regularly. There are plenty of products that came out over the years. They seem to have a potent effect. They ran them, they sold them for a year or two, then the FDA determined that they did actually work. What do you think happens? Well, they then become a controlled substance. So let's be clear here. The supplement industry knows that anything that it produces that actually really works, they're not going to be able to sell it for long. Okay, it's going to get regulated eventually. They're going to have to pull it. There's going to be a lot of problems down the road. And they don't have to make stuff that works. Their marketing machine is good enough. They get enough fake natties and influencers and people sponsoring a product. They don't need for it to actually work. People will buy it anyways. It works all the time. Look how well branched chain amino acids sold. Millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars due to different endorsements, right? It turned out they don't work. They don't work at all. Any benefit was placebo. Meta-analysis have confirmed this. It's not even in question in the science anymore. They don't work. But they sold them. It's in their best interest to not really find stuff that works, because there might be a short-term profit, but they're going to lose in the long term on it. It's in their best interest to find stuff that doesn't really work, it's not going to be proven to work, so they can sell it to you longer and just use endorsements to sell it. And then if it doesn't do much, there's probably less risk of collateral down the road to damage to you. That is how the whole industry works. And it's been set up to be that way. They can't be successful and profit any other way due to the legal environment as it exists. All right? So it is forced to be a scam industry to be successful. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.